of meditation. Okay, so chapter 6 is a Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan Yoga means the yoga of meditation. Now, what is yoga? First of all, let us understand the meaning of the yoga. Yoga means it is a meeting or the connection between whom? It is a meeting and the connection between the God and the ourselves. That means there are different types of the yoga. That is a karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga. We can learn all these also, but definitely a better one is a bhakti yoga. That also we will see in this chapter how it is a better one. But nowadays, in the name of the yoga, what is going on? Very silly things is going on. Very you can call it a people are commercializing and make it a very profit oriented activity yoga. You see this person is almost entered his head into the earth, and then he is doing this exercise or whatever you can call it. Is this a yoga? This is definitely not a yoga actually. Then also this man you can see so many, he is whatever exercise or physical activity he is doing, because he might have got good muscles and the good biceps, triceps and everything. His body is very flexible. That is why he all this doing. But is this the yoga? This is also not the yoga. That also we will understand that why this is all not yoga. It is not a rather a complete yoga. You can see this is a goat yoga. A goat is standing on the back of the lady, who is just on bending and touching the ground with the hands and the feet, and the goat is above her. This is called a goat yoga. What is the meaning of this goat yoga? I don't know. Yeah. Nowadays also there is a chair yoga. Sitting on the chair, you can perform all the yoga. Or the people call it an office yoga also. Just sitting on the office and sitting on the chair, you can do different types of the activities or different type of the exercises, and they call it a yoga. So these are actually all physical exercises. You can call it a part of the yoga. To some extent it will cover, but it is not a complete yoga. That I will make you understand how why it is not a complete yoga. So now in the name of the yoga, the people has made it a very commercial activity, or you can call it a very um, activity related to the profit making activity. You can see the yoga for pregnancy, yoga for physical and mental health, yoga for sitting on the chair and chair dancing, chair yoga. Even there is a people have made a yoga for the cat also. You can see the photo of the cat, and he has named it yoga for cat zen. Yeah. Very funny thing actually. Even there are so many books are published on the in the name of the commercial or profit generation activities, like yoga for wellness, then yoga for weight loss, then business yoga also. Have you ever heard the yoga science for business success? Desktop yoga, that means sitting on the chair and the computer you can perform the desktop yoga. And this is also very funny, there is the yoga tennis. How a person can yoga tennis. I have very first time I have seen there is yoga tennis. So now why I told you that this is not a yoga, or it is not a complete yoga, it is just a form of the different physical exercises, you can call it. Because what we learned today is the actual yoga, that is the Ashtanga yoga. Now let me tell you, explain what is Ashtanga yoga. First, let us understand the meaning of the name itself actually. Ashtanga yoga is made up of the two words, Ashta and Anga, and then yoga word. Ashta means 8. That means the numerical 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And Anga means limb or the fold, you can call it. And the yoga is the meeting or the combination of the meeting with the God and ourselves. It is a meeting of ourselves with the ourselves actually. You are meeting yourself. In other words, the soul is also called a self, that is Atma. You are meeting your soul, that is also yoga. So how it is eight-limbed connection? Um, this also I will explain you in this. The everything I will explain you by the telling you thing. First, let us understand the why eight-limbed. Our body bends from the eight limbs actually. First is our neck movement. Second is our shoulder. third is our elbow, fourth is our wrist, fifth is our waist, or you can call it a thigh also, then sixth is our knee, seven is our ankle, and again eight is our the foot fingers. These are the eight fold in our body, and that is why it is called eight limbed connection. From the entire body is our involved in that particular yoga, not only a part of the yoga, but entire body is our involved in that particular yoga. That is why it is called Ashtang yoga. That is the eight limbed yoga, and it has got a eight limbed in the different forms also. That also, first let us start with the yama, that is external discipline. What are the external disciplines? That means you have to sit in a proper posture, with how your fold and legs will be folded in between the two. Actually, you see, I cannot show you right now. Otherwise, it is there is a specific posture for which by which you have to sit before the yoga, and your hand position will also be like this. It will be, you have to take this mudra also with this finger, both the hands also. Then your head will be straight, entire back will be straight, your eyes will be completely focused, your on the state, actually state mind, and your two eyes, that is should be focusing on the middle of the eyebrow, that is the ear. This is the yama, that is the external discipline. And then comes the niyama. Niyama means internal disciplines, means no thoughts should be coming in your mind. Your mind should be totally calm, quiet, and free of any thought. And then comes the asana and the posture. That is the meditation seat. As I already explained you in the external discipline also. So now whatever the posture you are sitting in, you have to correct all posture in your this asana. That means your all eight limbs. That means starting from the neck to the finger of the toe. That means all folds you have to make it correct. Here also you just sit over here in that particular position, but you may not correct all the positions in that particular situation. But in the asana, you get a time to correct all your position. Your finger should be like this. For legs will be in your padmasan position. Like everything should be straight, so you can make correction into that. Then comes the pranayama. After you are making all these adjustments with your body and your thoughts, then comes the pranayam, that is the breath control. That means your in breath and the out breath. That means after that, you have to control your in breath and the out breath. That is called the breath control. This is the pranayama. And after the pranayama comes the pratyahara, that is the withdrawal of senses. That means you have to withdraw all your five senses, including mind and your intelligence and the ego, from your body, and should focus on one particular point on the meditation. That is the pratyahara, that is the withdrawal of all senses. That means your senses and the mind should not go here and there, go here and there. You may think of some other things, like you see some other things, you can hear some other things. Even you are not sitting in a very totally calm and quiet position, whatever the sounds you hear, you should be have the knowledge of that sound, and you should withdraw your ears from that sound. That means you should cut off the ears from that sound. Actually, that means that particular sound is also no more audible to you. That is called the withdrawal of the senses. And then comes the concentration. As I told you, that you should focus in between the your two eyebrows here, exactly middle of the ear. I'm just looking here, here. That is called a concentration. And then comes the dhyana, that is the meditative absorption. That means now when you are totally absorbed into the complete meditation process, and you are ready to absorb whatever that Lord Krishna connected thoughts or coming from the divine energy is, you are starting to absorbing that divine energy into you. That is called, it is called meditative absorption. And once you are start gathering the divine energy, divine force into you, it is called then union or the integration or the samadhi. So this is the exit position where the yoga is formed. In that particular situation, you can see the Lord Krishna in the either in the form of the light, or in the Paramatma form, or in the human form also. This is the ultimate position of the yoga. So these are the 8 stages of the yoga. So whatever the yoga you have seen in the earlier slides, you may call it, it is a first, second, third, or fourth. I think till asana it is a correct, maybe correct, but breath control they are never actually exercising that. So it is only a part of the yoga, you can call it, or you can call it only physical exercises. But the complete yoga is this 8 limbed chakra, that is Ashtanga yoga. So is this clear to all of you? Now, whoever want to perform the meditation has to perform according to this cycle. Okay. So let's move forward. I'm not telling that you should start meditation from tomorrow only, because it's a very slow and gradual process. It's a very long process also to reach at this stage. And it may be very difficult for you to reach at this stage also. If you start from this year's, say you may be 8, 9 or 10, whatever is your age, it may take around another 5, 6, 7 or 8 years also to reach at this stage. Because it is a very totally concentrated and focusing method actually. If you can't focus, you cannot do that. But in spite of that, you want to see the result of that. That means the person who has attained this position, what will be the result of the person, what will be the intelligence level, and what will be the focus and the concentration level of that particular person who has reached, almost reached at this stage. You can just understand. So are you ready to know about this? Or you are willing to give this yoga system try also? Just try to learn that what the I'm doing meditation each and every day. That is also good. Yes, they will feel relieved and calm. Yes, that is also one of the result. And you teach us now. Okay, I can, okay, I will. It will take a separate class. It is entirely 1 hour class will be needed for another for the to teach the meditation. I can teach definitely. I have some very good audios and videos also to go into the deep meditation, and that is called the in the English it is called alpha level. Your brain goes into the alpha level. There are the 4 stages of the mind, rather the alpha, beta, theta, and gamma. Your mind goes into the alpha level. So let us see when a person has achieved that level, where it goes actually. You must have seen this photo earlier also, but the Arjuna was one such person who has in previous days actually in olden time, they almost all everybody used to perform the meditation actually, and they were all experts in meditation. So when the Arjuna was just taking the teachings from the Guru Dronacharya, when Guru Dronacharya was taking a test and asked the Arjuna, just look at the tree and what are you seeing? Then the Arjuna simply said, I am just looking at the eyes of that bird actually, which is my target, which is my goal, where I have to hit my arrow. So he was not seeing any other thing. So this will be the sort of the concentration, that level of focus will be developed in your mind. If those who are already doing the meditation will also understand the different benefits of the yoga, your mind will become calm and quiet. And you all being the student, very important benefit you will get is that your concentration and the memory power will increase. Whatever the thing you are studying, you will be easily starting to catch up very quickly, and you can memorize it also very quickly. And another benefit is that you will memorize it forever rather, because that is a very common problem with most of the students. Once they start learning and okay, they memorize the things, then when the exam comes, at the point of the examination or when they are writing the examinations, when that particular question and comes and he has memorized it very well, suddenly his got lost out of the memory. He forgets everything about that. So this is a very common problem with many of the students. I'm not telling that most of the students, but many of the students, it is because of the you are not focused, you are not concentrated while memorizing the things. But those who are doing the meditation, it is one of the best benefit to the students actually. They will immediately start memorizing things very quickly and memorize it for a longer period of time. They will no chance of getting it forgetting. So this is very important benefit you will get if you start meditation also. I'm telling, just you can start meditation for only 15 minutes a day. Just sit calm and quiet with closed eyes, not focusing on anything or any outsider, no outside thoughts, just within yourself. Just try to watch your in breath and the out breath and just focus on your breath only. That means immediately if you do this practice continuously, say for 21 to 30 days, then you can achieve at least breath control level. That means almost 5th or the 6th level you can achieve very easily. After that it becomes more and more difficult, but at least till to achieve the 5th or the 6th level, that is out of this 8-limbed yoga, till the pranayam, or you can call it a pratyahara also is very little bit difficult, but 1, 2, 3, 4, that is a breath control level you can very well achieve. And if you ever achieve the breath control also within 1 month, that will be very, very benefit to you and for memory and the study also. I'm giving some more time on this study because all of you are being the student, so it will bring a more benefit to you also. That is why I'm giving some more time on these slides. And this is another picture where during the Swayamvar of the Draupadi was going on, Arjuna, just by looking at the that shadow of that fish into the water, he targeted his eyes actually. Now, but what is the problem with us? That is the problem with the Arjun also. So we'll learn this sloka. Chetan Prabhuji, who will read the sloka?
Prabhuji, I will unmute Radhika.
Okay.
Yes, Radhika Mataji, you can unmute yourself.
Prabhuji, I don't know shloka, so can I say translation?
Wait. Okay, you just you can tell the translation.
For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Yes. Can you read Netra Mataji? Can you read Hare Krishna?
No, Prabhuji, I don't know to read the sloka.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji, you just continue.
Okay, thank you. Because today's chapter is a little bit longer also. Okay, so for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So it is a very common problem, just like to all of us, to the Arjuna also. So the Arjuna said to achieve that level of the meditation, it is very, very difficult, because to control the mind, it is just like controlling the wind. Suppose you are just opening the gate of the door. If somebody want to come inside, you can control that person, but immediately once you open the door, the wind or the air come inside. Can you control that wind or the air? You cannot. Similarly, suppose some air or wind is already there in a particular room, and you want to get out of that wind or air of that particular room. Suppose something is bad smelling. So can you get out of that, take the wind in your hand or in some any container and throw the wind away? You cannot do that. You cannot control the wind actually. Controlling the wind or even the changing the direction of the wind is not in our hand. We can't do that. Because so whenever we sit for the meditation, some different thoughts always come into our mind, particularly thoughts related to the eating. Oh, I forget to eat that thing. Oh, I'm getting hungry, I have to eat this. Oh, well, what is that actually happening in the TV or the mobile or something, whatever. So many thoughts are coming into our mind. It is normally said that in a one particular day, around say some 60,000 thoughts come into our mind in one particular day, and that is only when we are awake, that is in 16 hours. In 16 hours, almost 60,000 thoughts come into our mind at different point of time. So how can you control it? So it is very difficult. So it's a very common question asked by the Arjuna to the Lord Krishna. Now let us see what the Lord Krishna replies. First of all, is the mind a friend or an enemy? You know, our mind can be our best friend as well as our worst enemy also. I will not tell the best enemy, but the our worst enemy also, or the best friend. How it can be, let us see. Lord Krishna says that for who has conquered the mind, that means who has win over the mind. The mind is best of the friends. But for the one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be his worst enemy. Now, how this? Let me explain you. That how our mind will be our best friend as well as our worst enemy. First of all, you got very well clear that it is very difficult to control our mind. Is there any confusion about that? That it is very difficult to control the mind? Please write. Anyone has a confusion? Okay, good, very good. Now let me explain you how your mind is your best of the friends and how your mind is your worst of the enemy. You are being children, so let me take the example of you only. Suppose you want a particular thing, say like let us take the example of again the mobile only, because it is a nowadays very much requirement. Suppose a new model has come into the market and you want to buy particular that mobile. Although you present you have already the mobile, but as because it is a new brand with the new features and the new something into that, you are very fond of that and crazy about that mobile, you want that mobile. So you ask your parents, okay papa, I need this mobile, you give it to me. Okay, now suppose your papa says that okay beta, I can give you the mobile, but right now you already have the existing mobile, and you do not need any other mobile also, because whatever the features are already there, what you are explaining to me that these are the features into that, it is already here also. It is just an advanced version of that. So it is not a necessity for you. Right now your father tries to explain you that the new mobile is not a necessity for you, because you already have the present mobile. Suppose you don't have any mobile, then it may be a point of necessity at that point of time. But that's because you have already have the mobile, so that mobile, new brand mobile which has come into the new market is not necessity for you. It is not like that your parents cannot buy that. Your parent can also easily buy that, but your parents try to explain you that it is not a necessity for you. That is why I will not going to buy you the new mobile at this moment. When you need that, I will definitely buy for that. Now immediately what will be your reaction? Okay, no papa, I want the mobile immediately. My that friend has bought it. There are so new things, this thing, no thing. You started going on arguing with your parents. And your parents suppose try to explain you or become quiet. Then also you say, okay, if you don't give me this mobile, then I will not eat this, I will not do this, I will not do this. You started not only the arguing, not only crying, then also do the emotional blackmailing also. Say, I will not eat this food, I will not eat today evening, I will not sleep, I will do not go to give my homework also, and tomorrow I will not go to school also. So you just started doing all these things. So at that point of time, what will happen, you will yourself will become more distracted and the more painful. You are giving the more pain to your body only, to your mind only, and you are giving the more stress and the distress to yourself only, instead of your parents. Because your parents understand that this time it is not necessary for you, and it is not, you are unnecessarily, you are stubborn of that actually, that you, I want to buy, I want to buy. So they are remaining calm and quiet and try to explain you. But you, on the other hand, do something different things. So in this way, you become your enemy first actually, instead of the enemy of the other persons actually. Because your parent will definitely understand that right now he is very much agitated. After some time, he will definitely or she will definitely cool down, and he or she will understand my point of view. But at that point of time, you have harmed yourself actually, you have hurt yourself, you hurt yourself and you damaged yourself only, and you become a bad in front of the other persons actually. So you, that is why you are a worst enemy of yourself only. But on the other hand, what a good student or the what a good child would have done, if he has the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and everything, what is it? Okay papa, whatever you think right now, suppose it is not necessary for me right now, what whenever you think that it is not necessary for me, you buy me that mobile and I will be happy with that mobile. Right now I am happy with my current mobile, and I have no complaint, I have no grudges, I have nothing. I'm very happy. Whatever you think, I'm happy with that. Because in the previous chapter, whatever we learned, that don't expect the fruits actually. Just leave it on the God. Then the gods will give you in multiples. Again, remember the example of that shopkeeper and the toffee. So if you have said like that to your parents, your parents will become very happy. Oh, my child is so intelligent, so knowledgeable person, that in spite of needing the mobile, in spite of that, now he will think otherwise. Oh, there are the new features in that mobile, and right now whatever he is using is a very old one also. It is almost 1 or 2 year old, and there is no feature also. Even screen has also become very scratchy and something like that. Okay, now let me ask, because he has already asked, let her next birthday or the something new good days coming, I will buy the mobile and give it to her. So just see the feelings between the two. In one you have reacted in the different manner, and the other situation where you have reacted in a very good manner. So the reaction from the opposite person, that is the other person, is also according to that. Are you getting me? So that is why it is called a, your mind itself is your best friend as well as your worst enemy. Is this example too clear to all of you? Please write in the chat box. Okay, I'm getting maximum yes. Okay, good. So now you are understood that how our mind will be a good friend for us as well as the worst enemy for us. So always try to control your mind, particularly the anger. Never get angry at any particular point of time. Now we will see in the first slide, we have seen that there are different types of the yoga. That is a karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and bhakti yoga. Now I told you that bhakti yoga is the ultimate supreme thing, and why it is that, that also I will tell you. All other yoga progression towards the destination of bhakti yoga. Now, suppose this is a ladder and you want to climb the ladder to reach the Lord Krishna. Just before climbing the ladder, what normally people will do? First, you understand the karma yoga. That means, what is the karma yoga? That means whatever the prescribed action as the spiritual action you perform, that do it with a deep feeling of devotion to the Lord Krishna, without any I feeling, without any ego, and without any expectation of result. This is the karma yoga. Now, then what is the Gyan Yoga? Gyan Yoga means we are soul, we are not body, and the different characteristics of the soul, that the soul cannot be burned, soul cannot be wet, soul cannot be dried, soul cannot be cut into the pieces, soul passes from one body to another. So this happiness and the sadness is very temporary. So this is all the Gyan Yoga actually. So you get the knowledge about the God or the soul in different from the scriptures, reading the books, attending the lectures, attending the classes and everything. And then you do the Ashtanga Yoga. That means you start meditation and you try to reach that entire eight circle, eight limbed yoga, and try to reach the level of the highest level, that is a samadhi. That is the highest level of Ashtanga Yoga. So by this yoga also you do the meditation. But what the Bhakti Yoga says, ultimately your goal is to so. Even if you know the Karma Yoga, that what is your goal? You have to attain the Lord Krishna. If you know about the soul and everything, then by getting that knowledge also, what is the ultimate goal? To know the Lord Krishna. If you do the meditation also, then also what is the ultimate goal? To know the Lord Krishna. Suppose right now you are studying into different classes, and what is the ultimate objective of your study? Suppose you create a graduation, masters, or whatever it is, any professional degree, then you will definitely have to make earning out of that. That will be your ultimate goal. So even after doing all this yoga, ultimately what you have to do, you have to do the bhakti yoga. That means you have to engage yourself into the bhakti, engage yourself into the worshipping of the God, and that is the ultimate. So that is why all other yogas, that means all these different yogas, a progression. It is slowly gradually you are climbing the ladder one by one, and reaching the Lord Krishna towards the destination of the bhakti yoga. That means your ultimate goal is the bhakti yoga. You are doing all these exercises of karma yoga, gyan yoga, ashtanga yoga, just to get the bhakti yoga, and to by virtue of bhakti yoga you reach the Lord Krishna. So that is your ultimate objective. Now, I think you all of you have seen this slide earlier also. In the Satyuga, the meditation was the best way to reach the Lord Krishna. Treta Yuga, sacrifices were conducted, yagna was conducted. Dwapar Yuga, temple worship was done. People used to gather and go to the temple also. But in the Kali Yuga, that also all of you know that chanting the holy names of the Lord and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the only way, only way, only way. That also we have learned in the earlier chapters. Now, let me show this slide and this slide again immediately. Yeah, this slide. So you see, this is a ladder, and your ultimate goal is to reach the Lord Krishna by the virtue of Bhakti Yoga. Now, let me show this slide after this. I'm just keeping this, all this, and just showing you this. So, you see, there is a lift and there is a staircase. So here also suppose Lord Krishna is there, and this staircase is also ultimately reaches here only, it is Lord Krishna itself only. So now there are the two ways to reach the Lord Krishna. What will you prefer? You will definitely take the lift or the ladder, this elevator, and try to reach the Lord Krishna as soon as possible and at the earliest. So just it is a learning about the different yoga, that is a Gyan yoga, Bhakti, Karma yoga and Ashtanga yoga is just a ladder actually. And by following all this ladder, you reach the Bhakti yoga and reach the Lord Krishna. But instead of that, all the other yoga, we just take the elevator or the lift, sit on the elevator, press the button, and go to the Lord Krishna. So, what is that button and what is that elevator? What is that lift actually? That also we will see. That lift is the mantra, the Maha mantra. Now let us understand the meaning of the mantra. Mantra means the mind and the tra means the deliver. So that mantra is the, yeah, don't you feel get excited? Oh, what a good thing I got. I know all these things already. So immediately I can chant this Maha mantra and reach the Lord Krishna. Are you all not excited by knowing this? Okay. So, yes, okay. I think all of you must be happy and excited to know this is a ladder. So this is the ladder or this is the lift. You just have to press the button and just reach the Lord Krishna. You can understand all this Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga later on also. No need to do that. This is just a direct lift or the ladder to reach the Lord Krishna. That is the Bhakti Yoga. In the today's time, that is the Kali Yoga. Okay. So now this is also one of the more reason that why you should chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In the earlier chapters also, it was very much clear to all of you, logically, argumentative, and all other reasons. But now with this chapter, it is ultimate. This is the ultimate chapter that makes all the clear that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the ladder or the lift for you to reach the Lord Krishna within the shortest time just by pressing the button. Okay. This is a Sankirtan. That means the people in the groups are doing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You can see the kartal and the dhol in everyone's hand, and they are just very happy and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay. I chant, but if we do not have the beads, how can? Yes, without the bead also you can chant it. Okay, I will show you that also. Now, after understanding all these things, do you need any further explanation that why we should the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Please write in the chat box. Do you need any further explanation that why you need the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Okay, no. But in spite of this, thanks for all of your feedback. And I must congratulate all of you that you start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Those who have not yet started, please start it. Because now we have got all the reasons to how to chant the, why to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But even then, suppose there are some persons who want to know Please show me where is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. By chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you will reach the Lord Krishna. Why it is the ladder or the lift to the reach the Lord Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the ladder or the lift to reach the Lord Krishna. So there are so many evidences, so many proof is there in our scriptural references that everywhere it is written that chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the Kali Yuga is the best way and rather the only way to reach the Lord Krishna. So I will show you some of the scriptural references just for your understanding and for your knowledge actually. It although you have understood very clearly that it is a ultimate lift or the ladder in your hand, elevator. But even then, keep it in your mind, at the back of the mind, you can understand it. In Narayana Samhita, it is written that in the age of the Kali Yuga, that is the Kali Yuga, people should simply chant the holy name of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. That is the people should chant the holy name. That means holy name is already there in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is one evidence. This is another evidence. And that also in the Kali Santriya Upanishad. What is the after searching through all the Vedic literature, that means after searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age. This means Kali Yuga than the chanting of the Hare Krishna. That means again the same thing. That is the only thing you have to do. That is the chanting of Hare Krishna. Let me show you something more evidences. And this is also written in Brihad Naradiya Purana. In this age, which age? That is the Kali Yuga of quarrel and hypocrisy. You know, this Kali Yuga will be all the age will be of quarrel. It started with the Mahabharata itself, that is the quarrel and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means everywhere will be I feeling, I am doing this, all you are doing this, and there will be a jealousy feeling, and all this will be in the Kali Yuga. The only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Again, also it is the same thing written in our Narad Purana also. Let me show you one more scriptural reference. In the Bhagavatam also it is written, my dear king, although Kali Yuga is full of faults, that means all the faults, all the wrong things and all negative things will be there. There is still one good quality about this age. And what is that? It is that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be prompted to transcendental kingdom. Now you very well understand the meaning of the material bondage. That also I explained you in the earlier chapters. So all this written in the Bhagavatam also. One more scriptural reference. Okay, in Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 10, that also will cover sloka number 25. Of sacrifices, I am chanting the holy names japa. That means, of course, that is this. In Bhagavad Gita also it is said. Oh, it is still there. I think it is enough. Yeah. Now it is written in the Siksha Satkam. That is a sloka 2. I am not aware about this also, but my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, in your holy name there is all good fortune for the living entity. That means in your holy name there is all good fortune. And therefore you have many names such as Krishna and Govinda. You have invested all your potentials in those names and there are no hard and fast rule for remembering them. Yes, Maha Mantra itself is a very easy mantra. It is not, nothing is hard and difficult in that Maha Mantra. It is very easy to pronounce. And the Krishna has got various names also, Krishna, Govinda, like that. So these are also very easy names. Yes. So is it clear to all of you? I think a lot of things have come in the chat box. Let me read that. When do you go there if you chant? How much do you? Okay, now I think all of your question regarding the chanting. So let us do that also. Everything will be solved in your chanting. Yes. What are the first? Let us see what are the do's for the chanting. That means you have to do that while chanting, or you have to do in that manner only while chanting. You know, there are do's and do nots are always there for a particular rule. So chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a sort of the rule. So first chant the Pancha Tattva mantra before starting to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Pancha Tattva mantra, I think all of you know. Even then, I will show you that also. Pancha Tattva Mahamantra, Pancha Tattva mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this is the preliminary. In every book there is some introduction or preface or some preliminary thing is given. So it is just before chanting the Maha Mantra, it is also a preliminary, and there is a specific meaning for this also. That means we are remembering all these five. Yeah, you can see the photo over here. All these five great persons who are here. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. In fact, this sloka is based on the name of all these five persons. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. Sri Advaita Gadadhara, that means who is there? He is the Balaram himself only. Then Advaita Gadadhara is there. And then the Srivashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda is also here, these two persons. So, as all of you are children, so, there is you have a close friends. Say you are two friends, three friends, four friends, or sometimes five friends are so close to each other. So whenever you used to go, you go together. Whenever you used to play for something, you also always go together. Even in the class also, you always sit all the five friends, four friends, three friends, whatever is your group. You always stay together and sit together in the class. Suppose you are going for the tuition also, then also you will go all together also. So this sort of the five friends were used to remain always together, and that is why it is the Pancha Tattva Mahamantra. The Pancha means five, Tattva means the soul. These five great divine soul, these are all great divine and pure soul. So for that the mantra is done, and it is the meaning of why to pronounce that. The reason for the taking this Panchatattva mantra before the Maha Mantra is that while chanting the Maha Mantra, so whatever the mistake or by mistake, by unknowingly, whatever the mistake we have done, or suppose while chanting the mantra, our mind diverts to somewhere else here or there. So that is also a mistake. That is also a fault. So we ask prayer to the God that God please forgive us while if we have committed any mistake while chanting the Maha Mantra. So before this, we are leading ourselves to all these five great divine souls and asking for the forgiveness also. So that is also the reason that why we chant the Panchatattva mantra before chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Now another do's. Chant audibly. That means loud enough to hear the mantra. There is also a reason why to loud enough. We have got a five senses. So suppose while chanting the Maha Mantra, you close your eyes, okay? Then you speak from your tongue. Then that means your eyes is closed, okay? You are just memorizing the Lord Krishna and just visioning the Lord Krishna into your mind. With the tongue, you are chanting the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What the ear will do that point of time, if you do not chant loudly, then the outside noise will come into your ears and your mind will get distracted. But when you are speaking it a little bit loudly, that itself, that noise of that chanting will enter into your ear. So ear has also got a work to do. So the ear will also do that. And now when your eyes, tongue and the ear are already engaged into the chanting of the Maha Mantra, what the other nose is already doing his work silently. That is the breath in, breath out is doing that work. And with the mouth, no other thing is going on out of your mouth except chanting of the Maha Mantra. And the skin has nothing to do with the chanting of the Maha Mantra. It is silent. It is not disturbing you at all. So all what is the disturbing? That is the eyes, ear and the tongue. So all are engaged in that particular activity of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So everything, all your senses has got a work to do. So they will not disturb you into chanting of the Maha Mantra. That is why I have also closed my eyes and made you understand. So is this clear to all of you that why it should be loud enough to hear the mantra? Okay. So I'm trying to explaining you with the logic and explanation so that it makes very easy to all of you. Okay. So you have to keep busy your all the senses. Then only you will be able to control the senses. In the earlier sloka, we have learned that. Another thing. Pronounce each name distinctly: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That means each and every word should be audible very clearly and distinctly to your ears, which goes into your mind. If you chant something wrong or which is not clearly audible, you will get disturbed. You will not like it. Your mind will not like that. Oh, what he is chanting? What I am hearing with the eyes is I'm not getting clearly. You don't use, even in also when we are in the Zoom meeting, suppose my voice is breaking or my voice is not very clear. So and then immediately you type in the chat box, your voice is breaking clear, your voice is not clear, something like that. So when you are chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and if you are not chanting very clearly, if you are not audible very clearly, your mind will immediately react and it will go somewhere else actually. That means your mind will get distracted. That is why it is said that always pronounce each and every word very distinctly, very clearly. However, with the practice, you may develop a practice that initially you may take a time, say around 15-20 minutes to complete one round. But after slowly, gradually, as because you know the practice makes the perfect. So slowly, gradually, it may take 12 minutes, 10 minutes, or even 8 minutes. Those who have perfected excellently will normally take not more than 8 minutes. That means with a very good reasonable speed and with all the word are logically, distinctly, audible also and the pronounced also. But if you take more time, then it's no problem into that, no harm into that. But do it distinctly. Then of course, chant with respect, devotion and concentration. That means whenever you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with a due respect to whom, that is the Lord Krishna. With the total devotion to whom, that is the Lord Krishna. And with the on whom to concentrate, that is also on the Lord Krishna. That means if your eyes are closed, you should try to concentrate and focus on the any picture of your favorite picture is of Lord Krishna. Now, you can chant in any place, sitting or walking, facing in any direction. I think this is my also very favorite slide because from my home to my office, it is a walking distance. So every day whenever I walk, I've made a habit that while walking from, it is normally a 12-minute walk actually for me. So I have made it a habit that in 12 minutes I will complete at least one round. So it has become a very habit. So starting from the home to when I reach the office, I just complete one round of my that. Just chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra only. Although I am not closing my eyes, but at least chanting is going on. Or you can definitely sitting on the park or whatever it is in the early time also, you can do that. The sitting or walking. It is not necessary that while walking you cannot chant. Even after reading this slide, I have made it a habit for me. That why don't, suppose if I'm chanting 8 times in a day, now, okay, while walking, going to office and coming back to office, if I chant, that will be make 10 rounds of me. So it will be good for me. So I started from this slide when I also learned this course and everything. After this, I also started my habit for me that, okay, I will do that also. While going to office and while coming back to home, I will chant at least one round. And yes, you can chant at any time. All the time is good for the chanting. However, it is recommended to chant early in the morning hours, Brahma Muhurat. Chaitanya Prabhuji used to get up early in the morning at around 4 or 4:30, and by 4:30 he starts chanting and he completes 16 rounds at a time. Brahma Muhurat, that is Brahma Muhurat is the time between 3:30 to 5 o'clock early in the morning. That is called the Brahma Muhurat. And it is very good. And at this point of time is a very, very good. Am I right, Chaitanya Prabhuji?
Ji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. You can chant either before or after taking the bath. Normally, after taking the bath is advisable, but if you are sick or you cannot take bath early in the morning or late in the morning because of your health or some restrictions, then you can take it, chant it before bath also. And those for chanting, it is recommended to chant by keeping the count, preferably on a mala having 108 bits. Now, I think 2 or 3 have asked me that if you don't have the mala, then what to do? Then also it's very simple. How many you see in our fingers? There are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you count the thumb, then also it is 1, 2. If you ignore the thumb, then it is 4 fingers into 3 divisions. 4 into 3 into 12. So 12 into 9, that means 18, or 108. Suppose if you count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we have completed the 12. We just click 1 over here. Okay. Another again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Complete. Again 2. If you are now keep on doing like this. If now it reaches with the left finger, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When you have completed the 9, it is almost a 1 round of the japa mala. Even if you don't have the mala, you can do that. I do that even while walking, as I said you only. While walking, I do not carry my mala. Just I do by fingers and by these fingers. I count 108 times. So now you got it that how to do without the mala also you can the counting of 108 mantras. Okay, is that clear to all of you? Okay. Somebody has asked in the chat box that if you do not have the mala, how to count that. So this is the method of counting. Now comes the do nots. That is also very important. It is like as important as the do's also. One should not chant only a portion of the Maha Mantra. That means Hare Krishna, and stop. No, you should chant it fully. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And one should not cross this Krishna bead. This is called a Krishna bead. Those who are chanting with the Japamala, they know what is the Krishna bead, and they should not overcome or cross over this Krishna bead. Suppose they are chanting the 2 rounds at a time. After completion of the 1 round, they have to just reverse the mala instead of crossing over or the Japa Krishna beads. The logic behind the over crossing of the Krishna bead is that we cannot override, we cannot surpass the Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna is the ultimate supreme Godhead. How can we overhead? How can we go beyond the Lord Krishna? So we should not overcross or the cross over this Krishna bead and start chanting another round. We should always reverse the mala and start another round. Yeah, this is also very important thing. One should not chant while reading a book or newspaper or watching TV or mobiles. Definitely not. So in the earlier slide also, you have seen that we have to focus entirely on the chanting of the Maha Mantra. That is why it is said that the chant loudly enough to hear, so that you can hear. So close your eyes also. That means you can focus on. If your eyes are open and you are reading this, that means you are not speaking chanting the loudly. So what is the use of that? That means your ear is also, that means all your senses are not in your control. It is of no use if chanting some Maha Mantra while reading or anything, watching TV or mobile. Actually, it is useless. Rather, don't do that actually. Totally stop it. This is the most ugliest practice I like actually. One should not do that. And now the benefits of the chanting. The first is as freedom from the anxiety and the stress. All the stress, tension, and anxiety will go. You will see all these people you see are all laughing and the smiling and chanting the Maha Mantra with the dole and the kartal in their hands, and they're just enjoying the chanting of the Maha Mantra. You will get, of course, the peace of mind without worry, without tension, without stress. You will get totally at peace of mind. And of course the real happiness is also you will get it. Why it is called a real happiness? Because this happiness will not be disturbed, will not be destroyed. Actually, you are at eternal happiness, ultimate happiness, because the material things in this world can give you temporary happiness. I explained you with the example of the car and the mobile also. That means whatever the material things are you are getting at one point of time may be source of happiness. So same thing will turn out to be a source of the sorrow at another point of time. But with the chanting of the Lord Krishna, you will get the real happiness, permanent happiness, and everlasting happiness. And of course, enlightenment, that is the knowledge about the Lord Krishna. So chant and be happy. Okay. I think I have covered in time actually. Yeah. So now let us, Chaitanya Prabhuji, is the poll ready?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is ready. Means on second, third, second day, third day, fourth day, I completed, Prabhuji. Fifth day, I have.
Thank you.
You can take third day or fourth day polls, Prabhuji, as per your
Okay.
convenience.
No, today we have a very short time. Tomorrow we'll cover the other day also. Tomorrow
Okay.
being the Sunday
Okay.
over there, even I will also be free because I will also not have the office. So I devote more time also.
Sure.
So let us go for the chapter 6 today.
Prabhuji, means day chapter 3 or chapter 4 you can take, Prabhuji. Directly chapter 6 I have not prepared. I like that.
Okay, no problem. So
Third or
let me
fourth.
take the, okay, then let me take the chapter 2 also, because first we have taken 2 and 3, 4 we have not taken. So let us take the chapter 2.
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So I'm launching the poll. It has got 5 questions, so I will give you 30 seconds. Please start giving your answer immediately. 11 seconds is over. 10 seconds left. 1 second, 30 seconds. So I'm ending the poll. Now I'm sharing the result also. Okay. So our body consists of how many elements? 82% have rightly replied, that is the 5 elements. And what are those 5 elements? That is the sky, air. Can anyone type quickly before I say? Sky, air, water, fire, earth. Okay. Okay, good. Where did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna? Kurukshetra. 97% has rightly answered. Third question. What is the size of the soul? 1 by 10,000 times of the tip of the hair. 85% has rightly answered. Yes, very good. Number 4. How many of the species of life exist? 84 lakh. 94% have given the right answer. Very good. Where is the soul situated? Human body, the heart. 94%. So I missed all questions. More than 90% of you, in some of the cases, almost 99% have given the right answer. That's very good. Okay. So I'm stopping this also. Now let us quickly go through the questions. This chapter, I think, is a very easy chapter. I don't think so there are many questions, but even then, let me take the questions. If you do not